Sometimes it's about more than manifesting. You got to do the work. Speaking of somebody who's doing many things that is getting them out of their comfort zone, who's reaching many people in the community globally, changing lives and building true kings, I want to welcome Julian, Mr. Jewelz, to the Keep It Uplifting podcast.
Thank you for having me, King.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I was, I do a little research, and I was like, going through the Instagram and think about what I know about you, and you do more. You do a lot more than what I thought I knew. Like, what makes you want to give back so much? I see you everywhere. So if I Google your name, there's, how you go to page 6 on Google? Yeah, you on page 6. There's a lot of articles out there. So what makes you want to give back to the community so much? Was that something that was instilled in you when you were growing up?
Yeah, just basically being from Oakland, King. Honestly,
Okay.
I grew up in Atlanta, but my roots are from Oakland, California, Pantherville, Panther Nation, as I like to call it.
Okay.
Home of the Black Panthers, for those who may not know, where Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, the co-founders, but it's all about community building. It was instilled in me from a young age, coming from a Caribbean background, from Trinidad and Tobago. My family is by way of Trinidad.
Wow.
And we always were taught you have to lift up your next fellow man or your next fellow woman. And I call us kings and queens because I really do think that we're born to accept our crown and to be royal, as we should be, and walking in purpose. And that really only comes with helping out the next fellow king or queen that we are in community with.
Wow. A king's message, man. Are you still building kings? I saw something online that you had president of the king building. What is that again?
Development. We have a nonprofit, but it's not active right now. But that doesn't mean that we're still not building up kings. But I started a nonprofit called the King Building Development Institute.
Yes.
It was incorporated here in Georgia, and I wanted to basically do what you're doing, uplift young kings, but more middle school, high school, and like early college, teach them job readiness, to teach them how to find a trade, to turn it into a business as an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I was on the speaking circuit, doing a lot of presentations in the schools and in local high schools, colleges, and even in some elementary and middle schools, and just really providing a positive black male role model figure.
Yeah, but I think you're not really giving it its glory because you have so many awards. It's like 30, Mr. 30 under 30, 40 under 40. Like, you're just achieving so much, and you're so involved in the community. Has it always been easy for you to just help everybody? Have you had any pushback along the way, or people who were trying to take advantage of you along the way?
Definitely, I would probably say the biggest lesson is don't let the young look fool you. As you know, when we first met last year, people always are trying to guess how old am I.
Right.
And that can a lot of times have people undermine the respect level that they give you until they start hearing me speak to them and talking in a business manner, in a professional manner, and then they're like, how old is this guy? How old is this cat? And so that always can be a situation where people are going to try you when it comes to thinking that you're younger than you always are. But, of course, with my resume, not black and white on paper, but even my community, my street resume, when people hear how involved I am and that I know certain people that are movers and shakers, then their antennas and their eyes start to open and also lighten up, because they know I'm not just a regular, like, young high schooler, college student that's out here in Atlanta, but they see that I'm about business and I'm about impact.
Yeah, I can tell because when I came in here, I mentioned your name, and I don't know her by name. Ona was letting me know that she was like, well, maybe I've seen him by face. And as soon as your face popped up, she's like, "Oh my God, Jewelz!" But everybody that I speak to, I have spoken to just 2 people, but the people that I've spoken to about you, like, speak highly of you. And you do look young. What's the regiment? Because your photos from 2016,
Hey,
they haven't changed much. You look the same, man.
we got the fountain of youth over here, man. Actually, my name, shout out to my mother, Yvette Smart, that named me Julian. It means young and handsome. So not to again harp on the name, but like that set the tone for my life.
Right.
My decisions that I made through life.
Wow.
I wasn't someone from an early age that cared to stress out a lot. I always kept a positive, uplifting, just personality and character about myself, because I eat very clean. I'm a plant-based. I don't consider myself to be vegan anymore, but more plant-based, holistic is what my regimen is. Always wanting to do a lot of veggies, fruits, and that's the Caribbean in me. Always was around with having leafy green foods and herbs. With having all of that mixed in with not stressing, not being someone that's into heavy drugs, or not being someone that is putting myself in situations that are going to cause me to age faster.
Wow.
It's always been a blessing to me.
So if you are listening, that is the full ingredients on the Fountain of Youth. That is how you stay young forever. But I want to get more into that because I interviewed Mr. Cliff, who's he's from Jamaica and he's the Caribbean, right? And he seems very relaxed as well. So is that part of the Caribbean heritage? Is everybody just easygoing?
Yeah, like folks in the 90s know the movie Cool Runnings, where you always hear a lot of the Jamaican quote-unquote accents. It's not a legit person that played in that movie.
Right,
It's
of
actually a
course.
Jamaican.
Right.
Shout out to Malik Yoba and the rest of the cast, Leon and others. But literally taking it easy has always been a thing of the Caribbean. You can't be very stressed out when you have scenery like the beaches that have water that's transparent and see-through.
Right.
You can't have a lot of stress or a lot of worries when mangoes and pineapples and bananas and other tropical fruits are falling off of the tree next door to where you live at.
Right.
And just being around that type of outdoor scenery. I never grew up in the Caribbean. I grew up in the States, but just in seeing my family and how they operate, it always left the impact on me is to really take it easy, chill, don't worry, be happy as the saying goes, and most importantly, drink a lot of H2O. I forgot to mention that before, to drink a lot of spring water, a lot of natural alkaline water.
Okay. Okay. So you were vegan before the rave, before 2020.
I was on the move. Probably right now it's on my 13th or 14th year. And I was testing it out. I wasn't full-fledged alkaline.
Right.
Because there's levels to quote-unquote veganism.
Okay.
Some people claim to be vegan, but they're still eating cheese or dishes that have cheese in it. Or some people, what we call it in the plant-based community, are part-time vegans. That they may be vegan on the weekend, but on the Monday through Friday, I call it they're eating savage food still, or they're eating food that's heavy meat in it. And so that's what I'm like drawing the fine line when people always are saying they're vegan. I always ask the next question: do you eat cheese? Do you still eat meat? Are you eating fish?
Right.
Because if you are, you're a part-time vegan. You're not a true legit vegan. You are.
Well, I got more questions about this. This isn't even on my list. No, but you've never eaten savage food, as you call it.
I grew up on the regular meats. Never was heavy into pork.
Okay.
Definitely
Okay.
Turkey.
Okay.
Chicken, fish. I didn't do a lot of beefs because I also learned that I needed to eat towards my blood type, and my blood type of being AB, it's not really good for me to eat a lot of heavy red meats. And so I always was into chicken and fish more, and a little bit of turkey.
Wow. How did you? You like changing the whole interview. I was talking about how you uplifting the community and changing the lives of young people, young kings and queens. But man, because I really don't know how old you are. I don't want to ask you either. But you really, I looked you up. I found plenty of articles on you, and you just look amazing. So. What else exercise? Is there anything else that you could add to that regimen? I do see you out giving the daily jewels sometimes. You out walking.
You got to get the walks in.
Yeah.
I always was into athletics, basketball, soccer. Did a little bit of handball and track and field, but mostly basketball and soccer growing up. And just as you know, as being in the athletics, you have to have a regimen. You have to be disciplined about your regimen. And from elementary all the way into high school, I didn't play after high school. I always had a regimen, a routine. And staying fit is a part of, I guess, my lifestyle. It's not just something I do as a fad or as a hobby. And so that comes from working out. That comes from making sure I'm having cardio or daily walks in throughout the week. And most importantly, eating clean.
Yeah.
I like to eat a lot of fruits and veggies. Never was that child that my mom had to beat me over the head or threaten me to eat my veggies on my plate, because I know my body needed it for nourishment.
Does that help with healing? Do you heal faster? Because I did hear that, vegans don't heal as fast as savage eaters.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is a debate. It is really not based off of the foods, but rather the herbs or the herbs, as they say in other parts of the world. And so the herbs or the herbs are mainly for the healing, and the fruits and veggies, legumes, and the grains, the rich grains, are for the nourishment. So anybody who's a real plant-based, quote-unquote, vegan or alkaline plant-based vegan knows that the herbs are more for healing.
Wow.
The food is for your nourishment and your energy.
So with that and with your diet, do you think that helps your mentality at all to always be able to stay positive? Because you're in the community, you're in the trenches of Atlanta. The world, actually, right? So when you're out there, I'm sure you can see families, kids, and people going through it. Do you think diet is attached to that at all for you?
Man, James, if you could just talk to any of my family members, because I think it really starts at home with you basically sharing information that you learn with your inner circle or your family first. They would tell you that, yeah, I believe a lot of the issues we have, especially in our communities and also in the Black community, the folks that look like myself and you, can stem from the diet and the healthy lifestyle or lack thereof. And so when it comes to even being in education, I've seen it firsthand where kids who may be high on heavy meats and they're taking Ritalin or they're taking other substances that the doctor prescribed for them to be in special education, that once you start to wean them off of certain high meats, red meats, or you wean them off of potentially a lot of sugars in their diet, cakes and desserts, that they're a totally different person.
You about to change my diet.
They may not even need the medication if they're doing it on a consistent regimen throughout the week.
Right.
But because they're eating only what is in their community, the fast foods, the different stores that are the corner stores, the bodegas as they have up north in New York, they're not getting access to fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, or even herbs, really.
Well, you're plenty of gems. I knew you was going to drop jewels, man. But
hey, that's what we do, kid.
But you being in these communities, seeing how distressed they are at times, seeing the diet and lack thereof options to nourish your body in a healthy way and enrich your mind, right? How do you not stress about that? Because there's a lot of weight on your shoulders. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's asking you to drive an hour to come and sit down and do a podcast, which I truly appreciate.
Got to.
Right. But I think it's just you're doing such an amazing job, and I mean, every photo I see you smiling, you shaking hands, you always taking pictures, you know, and you're always uplifting and building people. How do you manage that at all?
It's really just my faith in Yah. I call him Yah. I may call him God for those that do believe. But having my faith component intact from an early age, shout out to my mother again, Yvette Smart, that did raise me in the church. I wasn't an active, like, church PK, a preacher's kid that had to be in church 24/7, but she still kept me around the environment. I grew up Catholic and then went to AME, but now I'm non-denominational. But having that faith component, it let me know that it could always be worse. It let me know that even though people's situation may look a certain way currently right now, that it doesn't have to stay that way. Because if your mind is renewed, if your mind is cleansed, if your body is cleansed, then you're able to think in a different way than you never were able to think in before. So that's why I'm a firm believer in detoxing and cleansing. Just to add to your point, Jay, that we have to cleanse, and not just with food, even cleansing certain things that we're doing that are negative to our lifestyle and also our purpose.
Right. Because you abstained from, like you said, any drugs, alcohol, anything like that, correct?
I just did a little bit of drinking, of course, in college. I went to Hampton University, the real HU, shout out to the Pirates. But after I came and transferred to Kennesaw State University in Kennesaw, I really slowed down because I got a lot of the partying out of me when I was at the HBCU. HBCUs, for those who are listening,
it's a beautiful
y'all
place.
Know that it's a whole different experience versus a PWI.
Yes, sir.
And thankfully, I went to Hampton, but I actually grew up here in the AUC, which is the Atlanta United Center, which consists of Morris Brown, Clark, Atlanta, Spelman, and also Morehouse. And so anybody that really grew up here in the 90s, a.k.a. Freaknik era, you know how important the AUC is when it comes to just seeing our people thrive and seeing our people active in the community doing big things.
Carrying the city on your shoulders, man. Serious. So, being that you mentioned that you transferred to that school,
I transferred.
What caused that transfer? Did you just want to come back?
I would have loved to be a Hampton graduate. I went to Hampton right after high school, and literally I was going for a broadcast journalism career. I wanted to get into radio, to be basically a radio DJ or VJ at the time, and they have an entry-level test at Hampton that you have to take in order to pass to get into the School of Broadcast Journalism.
Wow.
And I thought I was doing it coming out of high school with my English grades usually being at a high A or B level, and then also with some of the other subjects that required a lot of writing and reading comprehension. But I honestly failed the test. It was an entry-level test. You could only fail it, I think it was either 2 or 3 times, and I sadly failed it. And that taught me one of my biggest lessons in college was that every program is not entry level. So some programs, they weed out those individuals in college that may or may not be able to be like top tier in learning certain subjects or learning some certain things in that that program or that elective or that major. So that taught me I had to switch it up. And so I switched my major. I was on the track of going for broadcast journalism, but I switched it to English. And thankfully, I still use that to this day, because when I transferred to Kennesaw State, I was going for English education. And that's really my area or my industry that I work in is education. But I also still do podcasting and content creation. I'm still doing broadcasting.
Oh, we're going to get there. Don't worry. No, because you know, I did the research, man, and you got a degree in global and technical or training communication or something like that.
Well, it's still on my
or globalization was your
on my college diploma. Just so you know, the degree, not the diploma. I'm in the high school mindset. In the college degree that I have, it is for English, but
Okay.
it's also professional writing.
Okay.
But I did do a lot of work basically teaching overseas,
Okay.
which is when I went to Korea. I
Okay.
had the privilege
Okay.
of going to Korea in 2010 to teach English. And a couple students, I was one of the 6 or 7 students selected that was able to go and actually get paid as a regular teacher when we were teaching English over in Korea,
Okay.
Seoul, South Korea.
Wow.
And so that opened up my mind to really having a global education and also a global impact.
Yes.
And which springboarded me, as we've talked about, to go and want to really serve the nations.
Yes.
Specifically Asia and Africa.
Right. You're every. Well, how was that though? When you got the opportunity, did you just jump at it? Did you were there conversations with the family and they were just like, yeah, push you out the door?
Yeah, like my mom was always someone, along with our community, that said that the world is much bigger than the U.S., U.S. of A. And from just a high school perspective, I was able to travel to Trinidad, and I forgot to mention, when I was in elementary school, about 10 or 9 years old, I had the privilege to go to Costa Rica to play soccer with our select soccer team, which is basically we play travel soccer in a soccer league. And I had that opportunity to go with my teammates,
Right.
and also my coach. And all of us who were on the team as players, our coach had a resort that he owned in Costa Rica, in San Jose, Costa Rica.
Wow.
So think of that, James, from a young black man or young black king or young black boy's perspective, seeing that, of course, a lot of black males don't play soccer in the States,
Right.
especially in Georgia.
Right.
So that's number one. And then number two is just being able to know that I'm not going to a resort that's just any resort. I'm going to one that my coach actually owns.
Amazing.
So that taught me literally that if my own soccer coach, shout out to Coach Conaway, Dan Conaway, and Coach Chris Hogan, who raised a lot of young men and young kings at an early age. But that taught me that there's no limits.
Yeah.
Because if my coach is just coaching me in the States, but he has a long hand of money or a long
Right.
wad of money to
Right.
be able to own real estate overseas.
Right.
Of course, he had business partners, but that just opened up my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely expands your horizon. I remember, I'm a military kid, and I remember going over to Hawaii from Baltimore, right? I never had been outside the city before.
Right.
So that just opened my eyes to a whole nother world. And then staying on the base and meeting other military kids just was like, you never lived in the States? They call it, the mainland. So for you to go to Seoul, which my stepfather was stationed in Seoul, Korea, and he's not black.
I love it.
So for you to go over there and teach and be in a nation where, you don't know the primary language is absolutely amazing. And you just keep doing things that I just didn't think were possible for somebody who's 16,
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about you being.
Hey, I'll take it. I used to get, especially I got a little bit of the salt and pepper now, but before I used to have the clean shave, no facial hair. They used to think I was just graduating high school.
No, but you're training people over there in English. When did you start training people financially and enriching their lives in that way?
That came when I was brought to a class at my church, my home church that I go to. Shout out to Victory Church, which is in Norcross.
Okay.
We also have a campus in Midtown and in North Cobb and in Hamilton Mill. But one of my old girlfriends actually invited me to a class called Financial Peace. And Financial Peace is a class that is created by Dave Ramsey, one of the financial gurus. He's up there with the Robert Kiyosakis and the other financial gurus of the world. But he crafted a class that was basically a 7-step program in order to get people out of debt so that they can acquire assets to build wealth.
Right.
And that opened up my perspective on the importance of financial education and seeing it step by step. I had always been introduced to the Robert Kiyosaki's,
Right.
Rich Dad, Poor Dads, and others that are in the financial space from an early age, but I never took actual class that helps singles and married couples walk through the step-by-step process of this is what you need to do to get out of debt with gazelle intensity, as Dave Ramsey says, not with just you doing it haphazardly or whimsically. You're doing it like at a fast pace, like I got to get out of debt now, ASAP.
Right.
That taught me that you have to have fire underneath you if you really want to get out of debt so you can get to your real goals and your real dreams.
And you have the fire. I mean, you're no, because you're moving around. I keep talking about it because it was like article after article after article, and I was just so grateful just to be able to sit down with you. Even I was able to sit down with you on the Run of Jewelz podcast as well, and you just coming out here just to sit down with me. What we met at the podcast conference. You never created a podcast, or you never had a podcast at that time, and your podcast is ranked globally in the top 3%. Did you know that?
No, I actually haven't checked any of the numbers recently because we're literally starting up another podcast, like I told you, with the Smart Jewelz Network.
Right.
We're talking about travel. So literally I haven't even been concentrating on RTJ, Run the Jewelz podcast.
Well, we're going to get into the network, but just for that podcast, what is the, how do I say this? What is the message? What is the mission statement behind that podcast?
So really everything around our business, which is Smart Jewelz Enterprises. We are an educational consulting agency that focuses on 3 different areas: personal development, financial education, and health and wellness. All 3 of those areas are very critical and important to me as an individual who founded Smart Jewelz Enterprises. And so we wanted to find a way to get our message out to an audio format to let audiences hear from content creators like yourself, business entrepreneurs like yourself and others that are more millennial, Gen Z age, around that Zennial age group, so that people can see from others that look like them, especially people of color, like the African, Caribbean, Latino X community. And we do have other persuasions and other ethnicities that come on, but that's heavily my main focus, is to have listeners hear from people that are in their same age group, to hear from people that are in different states, even in different countries, to teach them how to shine.
Right.
And the whole concept came from, shout out to Toby Nwigwe, who is out of Houston, Texas, I believe, or right outside of Houston in Adel. He had a song called Shine that came out right around the pandemic, and that was when we first started the Run the Jewelz podcast, was around 2019, at the end of 2019 going into 2020. And the theme of the show was Shine, the song that he has called Shine, Shine on all of them. And that left an impression on me when I heard the song, and I was like, that needs to be the motto and the mission of the show, is to teach other entrepreneurs and young professionals how to shine in their career, or to shine in their communities, or to shine even in their families. And so that coined the term Run the Jewelz. I also do give a shout out to Killer Mike, and also his counterpart that has the rap group, hip hop group, Run the Jewelz, but we spell ours with a Z, not a regular S with Jewelz.
I wasn't even gonna bring that up, man. I wasn't. Because when I saw it, I was like, I feel like I've seen this before, and then I said, I'm not gonna ask him that. That's not even to be mentioned. But so the enterprise, right? You or the network, both.
Yes.
What went from 1 to how many shows now?
Well, right now we are producing 3 core shows: the Run the Jewelz podcast, hosted by myself, Midnight Prayer Watch, which is hosted by one of my co-founders of Smart Travel Jewelz, Delta Williams.
Okay.
And then also we have a Smart Travel Jewelz show where we are basically talking everything with travel and leisure and giving travel hacks with people that are wanting to go and travel internationally on a budget and to learn about other countries' culture, their economy, their food and local cuisine, and most importantly, their tourist spots.
How do you manage? I mean, you're teaching, you're you're in the community, you're everywhere. Like, how do you manage? And then you're starting businesses over here. You're helping people grow their businesses over here. You're helping entrepreneurs gain knowledge over here. You're teaching people health. Like, how do you manage that?
It's just really a passion of mine to
Yeah.
help others, and most importantly, to help others shine, get out of their dark situations that they may feel trapped in, to give them a lifeline, to give them a word of knowledge or a word of inspiration to know that this is not your future. This is only your present. So, and being able to be raised around people that sewed into me books, like my uncle, Francis Smart Jr., shout out to my uncle. He sold books like The Richest Man in Babylon into me at an early age. He sold books into me like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Robert Kiyosaki even has a book called Rich Kid, Smart Kid that I also read. So that left me with the purpose of wanting to help people. And when I was able to train and speak and use my gifts in order to really educate others, it changed my mindset that I could actually monetize this. I can turn my voice, or I can turn my passion or my hobbies or interests into a business. And that's how we started the educational consulting agency, Smart Jewelz Enterprises. And then now we have just been building out different legs of the business.
Yeah, because not only are you helping people get rich, but you're also helping people travel as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about Smart Jewelz Travels. My cameras are dying. I don't know if they're too. I don't know if it's too hot in here or what. But tell me. I mean, the audio is all that matters, man.
Absolutely.
But tell me more about that.
So Smart Travel Jewels is really our baby right now. That's myself and a few other content creators, but myself and Delta, we are the founders of it, along with the select few others. We wanted to teach content creators how to travel abroad, and to not just teach them how to travel abroad on a budget. We wanted them to learn how to create content while they are traveling. And not just in being a YouTube travel influencer, but even whether they have a podcast, whether they are just trying to stay on TikTok or on IG,
Right.
or whether they're just wanting to get a whole bunch of footage for their website, for their business. We wanted to teach entrepreneurs and content creators how to create content globally.
Wow.
And that started from our passion of going to different countries. I've been to the biggest continents, Asia and Africa. I've been to Liberia and Seoul, South Korea. And when I found out I can go to the two biggest continents, I was like, this is only the beginning.
Right.
I did that before I was even in my late 30s or even in my mid 30s. And so it's like, literally, you can travel, but don't just travel just for fun.
Right.
Travel and have this as a business expense that you are able to write off.
Wow.
And also that you're able to show others and build up a tribe or a community that wants to create content globally.
Man, we've explored so much. I feel like I didn't ask you any of the questions that I have here.
It's all good.
But it's been a great conversation. I've got to know so much about you. I always circle back with my guests. Hopefully, you'll be in Japan by the next time we do this.
We got to get us out there so we can get some sake bombs or do some other festivals. I've heard a lot of great things. Festivals. Hip hop is big out in Japan.
Yes,
too.
yes.
People don't know that.
Yes, I actually found that out. I have a guy coming on who, the friend I was telling you about met in Japan, and he's an artist from Maryland. So
wow.
So small world, man.
Yeah,
it's a small world. But what I really want to ask you, and I ask every guest is, first time out, is what's next for you?
Oh man, like I know when we spoke briefly, I've always had a dream which is now going to be a reality of building schools in West Africa. Being in Liberia for the first time in 2019, I got to go with one of my friends and even business partners, John Yidia. He has a school out in Riversest, Liberia, and it sparked a jewel in me. I would even coin that term to want to build and to build internationally.
Yeah.
And I had already been given a vision from Yah, or Abba as I call my father, from maybe early college days, that I was going to be having a complex that has housing for students, that has trade schools and entrepreneurship. And that was like a big, lofty dream that he had literally dropped into my head as an open vision. And I saw like the buildings, I saw the students that were there, I saw the farming and agriculture, I forgot to even mention, where we're living off of the land. It's like a self-encompassing off-grid type of school, so it's not like in the city or anything like that. And going to Africa, it jogged my memory that I need to plant a school in Africa.
Wow.
And so that was the real reason why I started the nonprofit King Building Development Institute Incorporated, because I wanted to build up an institute for kings to teach them how to shine with their crown and also how to inherit their eternal crown.
Wow.
And that was really my steps each and every few years that I was taking towards getting that to be a reality. So right now, to answer your question shortly, bro, I'm looking to transition and relocate as an expat over to Asia and Africa. And from there, I just know that Yah is going to present me with the right people that can help me build to that dream being a reality, and having schools and even operating businesses internationally as an international educator and influencer.
Okay. Well, one, if you need any support with that, please let me know. And I'll be seeing you abroad. We've had several conversations, so absolutely. I definitely want to get outside of the United States. I want to get some stamps on that passport, man.
Got to.
I only have like one or two stamps.
Got to, man.
Yeah, but I really thank you, one, for just coming on the podcast, having me introduced to this beautiful studio down here. I think I'm gonna do a lot more work in Atlanta now.
Yes.
But at the same time, you've just been an absolute blessing since I met you. If I needed anything, you've always been there. You're there for everyone in the community. You're just that beacon of light, I would say, in dark times, for real. So I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, King.
Oh.
Thank you for coming on the Keep It Uplifting podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I love what you're doing, man, and continue to build and uplift in any way that you can, because we need that positivity, as we talked about before, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make sure to like, comment, share, and most importantly, keep it uplifting.
Take it up, listen.